Hello, and welcome to Neography A to Z. On this channel, I take a look at constructed and natural writing systems for both their functionality and their aesthetic appeal. So this review will cover Siinyamda by Britton Watkins and William S. Anise from 2014, an original conlang and script made for a sci-fi movie called Sin, written and produced by Britton Watkins. As mentioned previously on this channel, Britton, seen on the left here, is a prolific conlanger and has contributed to movies, television shows, and several online projects. William is a coder by trade, but has also contributed to several online projects, as well as having created the conlang in the feature-length film Black Adam. Both Britton and William have been involved with the Language Creation Society since its early years. Many members of the LCS have gone on to work together on various projects. Now let's take a look at the functionality. Here we see the base symbols for Siinyamda. It is an abugida. They are aligned in accordance with their IPA positions and their corresponding romanizations, with the vowels being attached to the bottom of the consonants and being written in a sort of full form when the syllable onset is null. Siinyamda uses a base 10 system, so the digits aren't necessarily anything special. However, they do add a bit of naturalism to the overall writing system. The punctuation. Quote, the equivalent of the comma is a single raised circle, and the equivalent of the full stop or period is two horizontal circles. The equivalent both of the colon and the semicolon is two vertical circles. The question mark is a raised circle with a vertical line underneath it, and the exclamation is an inverted triangle of circles. Quotes are mid-level horizontal circles at a slight angle. Capitalization is marked with a small dash above the initial letter. This is not used at the beginning of sentences, but is confined to proper names, such as resh, in the first and second person singular pronouns, od and er. Here we see a chart with all of the consonants and all of the vowels written out. Take note that the double consonants have a line to the left of them. Looks different in the cursive version, which will come up later. Also take note of all of the diphthongs and how they are marked. Now let's take a look at the aesthetics. When deciding on a system for the Sin movie and the Siinyamda writing system, Britton decided to use a Japanese-style brush pen to establish some of the strokes and initial shapes and what they might look like. The result were these stacked syllables that ended up looking a little too Chinese-esque for the director, and so the design was later altered to establish a more abugida-esque style. The result is what you see in front of you here. Take note that the vowels have this 2- vowel carrier that is written when they are initial or there is no initial consonant in the syllable. Here we see a less flowy or a less brush style and a more textual style. Take note that again, the vowels have a 2- mark above them for when they are written independently or without a consonant preceding them. The most unique aspect of Siinyamda, both as a language and a writing system, is that they were created specifically for this one movie. There were no pre-existing novels, and there's been nothing since either. If you take a look throughout the movie, you'll see that the language, and especially the writing system, play an important part in establishing the setting. As integral as the language is to the overall plot and the setting, it is not heard except in the characters' names. However, even in scenes such as the one on screen here, it is essential that we see the writing system as it gives us that alien-esque or otherworldly feel. So at every opportunity, in every scene where it was possible, the language and the writing system were on full display in order to add depth and realism and sort of a living world in the movie. As you can see here, one of these is the side of a metal building, the other is a book prop that was used in the movie. You'll notice that there are different fonts. They made several fonts, which will come up later in this video, and each one of them was given the attention to detail that they deserved in order to give the language and especially the writing system a full breathing life of its own. One of the themes of the movie is, of course, control and propaganda, which I highly recommend you watch the movie. However, what you'll see here is posters that were created for the movie, one as an advertisement, the other as sort of an in movie or in world propaganda poster. You'll notice again, there are different fonts being used here. It gives this complete and total objective realism to what you see in front of you. The propaganda poster on the right is even aged to sort of look like it's been in an industrial area for a while. The end credit scenes, which I would highly recommend you watch the movie all the way through, are even done in Siinyamda. The titles of the folks, i.e., writer, producer, director, and then the character names, are all first rendered in Siinyamda, and then they transition to both English and the Latin script. It's very well done effect, and again, it leaves you with a sense of what you just watched was real. The next few slides are just going to be the various fonts of Samyanda, but I would like for you to just take note of the small, subtle similarities as well as the very, very subtle differences across the fonts. And then you'll get a sense of how they could each fit into a real world sort of situation. And if you think this is too much work, just keep in mind that there are literally tens of thousands of fonts for the Latin alphabet. This one is simply a thicker or a bold version of the previous slide, but I like the way that it has to change a little bit of the curves in order to maintain the overall design. It looks really good. This particular font jumped out at me when I first saw it because you can tell if you look carefully, it's a stencil font. If you can do a negative of this and cut the letters out, it'd be very easy to go around and stencil, spray paint and stencil this onto locations. And I'm sure that when they did the on location set pieces, that is more or less what they did in several instances. Maybe not on the metal pieces. I don't know whether that was special effects or whether they actually had a metal worker on site, but this stencil appears throughout the film, and I think it's quite well done. Here we see a chart of the original brushstroke font. This is probably my favorite next to the stencil font of the previous slide. I think that this one embodies both the naturalism as well as sort of like the artistry that Britton has demonstrated in several of his other projects. And I think that Williams' work with the language probably only added to the realism of this script being used throughout the movie. And you'll see in some scenes in the movie too, you'll see notes and sort of scribbles occasionally in certain areas, and you can tell that they were done with probably an earlier version of this script. It's definitely worth looking at that. This font of the script is just sort of a line drawing font. I like it because it makes the characters for each letter very clear and distinct, but I also like it for its simplicity. It's very easy to sort of distinguish one letter from the other here. And if you go back and you look at the previous couple of slides here, you'll notice the likenesses and the very serious changes that are made in order to get this simple line drawing font. Again, on the top here is the original sort of idea or the proposal. It was decided that it was too Chinese-esque or too sort of Hanzi-esque. Um, I like it. I think it looks good. And you'll see that it sort of translates pretty well to these handwritten names that Britton included in the PDF, which will be linked in the description of this video. I encourage you to check it out. It works very well. The brushstrokes are natural without being forced, and you can sort of see how this might translate pretty easily into a quickly written script. So I'm going to rate Siinyamda a 5 out of 5 for functionality. It is a pretty basic abugida, but all of the odds and ends were thought of and put in place properly for a well-functioning abugida. That's why it gets the 5 out of 5 from me. As far as the aesthetics go, The fact that there are at least 6 different fonts for this script is absolutely mind-boggling and amazing. So, and that one of them is a brushstroke style is just top-notch artistry and work on the part of both William and Britton. So that again, the aesthetics gets a 5 out of 5 for me. This is probably one of the highest rated scripts that you'll ever see on this channel. I do like the conlang that was developed for the movie. I don't like that it really wasn't used except in a written form for the movie. I think that maybe you should have had a couple of characters speak it just to sort of give the audience a feel for what it is they're reading. Um, I also did watch the entirety of the movie uh, in preparation for this review, and it's not a great movie. It's not mind blowing. Um, there's some aspects of it that I think are really good. I do think some of the actors were trying their best, and they're not going to get an Oscar, but they did work really hard. I think that the direction was really well done. I think the story is very inspirational and unique. Um, but overall, it's not the best movie you're ever going to see, but it's also not a waste of time, especially if you're looking for unique sci-fi stories that resonate and that you use original ideas and concepts, um, most especially conlangs and conscripts. I do recommend you watch it. There will be a link to the movie on Tubi. It is available on Tubi right now. I highly recommend you check it out. Those are my thoughts on Siinyamda. I'm interested in hearing what you think about the script. Make sure you stay tuned for the next script review and be sure to click the bell button to be notified when the next episode is posted. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I very much appreciate your time and thank you for watching. As a note, all relevant links used in the making of this video are in the description. All information is the property of its creators and is openly available online.